Listen, come here, take a seat, we need to talk. Blue Lock chapter 339 is finally here, and for me, it makes back-to-back banger chapters. And this France match is shaping up to be a real banger. Cause, what do you mean triple substitution? But before we get into it, let's have a quick recap. Last chapter, we had a deep dive into Hugo's utter suitability philosophy, and as a result of that, my estimations for him actually went up. The goal itself was great, but I'm actually more invested into his dream of winning 4 World Cups. Bro, that's hard. And I mean hard. In fact, it's even harder than Snuffy's dream of winning the title in Europe's top 5 leagues. Hugo's a big dreamer for sure. And this dream actually suits him because he's in the perfect environment to be able to maybe make that happen. But if he is to succeed, he probably only has one failure in him before his dream is completely gone. Because if you think about it, right, a typical elite footballer's career, and I mean the footballers in the top end of football, their career lasts for about 14 years. So say Hugo's 18 years old and he's going to take part in the next World Cup. That's likely going to be in the upcoming year. So he might be around 19 years old by then, which means that he'll be around 30 to 31 years old come the time of his 4th World Cup. And being an elite player, we can probably say that he'll participate in about 5 World Cups in total, meaning it's do or bust for Hugo. He has to win at least 3 World Cups in a row just to be able to make this dream happen, which would be a record in itself since no men's nation team has actually won more than 2 in a row. And all this is to enlighten us that ego isn't strictly reserved to just strikers. Egos can be found in every position. But like I told you guys before, Hugo's not just some benevolent guy that just wants to see everyone, you know, thrive in their suitability. Nah, if anything, he's just OCD for real. Anyways, that was last chapter. We're here to talk about this chapter here, chapter 339. So if you haven't already hit the like button on this video, please make sure you like, hype, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below. Are you team Hugo or are you team ego? I think there's a really interesting conversation to be had there. So do me a favor. So this chapter starts off with all the guys in the changing rooms. And it's a little bit gloomy right now because Blue Lock are down. The Isagi centered formation isn't quite working out. Karasu had to do a madness just for Blue Lock to be able to score. And so Rayo and Bachira get at it, with Rayo saying something needs to change and Bachira saying, nah, we can stick to what we was doing currently. And all the while, Isagi's there in the background with a blank expression. For me, he looks hella focused. I was surprised with how he took the whole altercation with Karasu. I think he handled it pretty well considering he pretty much lost the whole argument. So Karasu goes on and says they might as well carry on with what they was doing before. And he's gonna lead Japan as his second best. And that's when Ego actually steps in, saying, watch what you say, Karasu. Are you trying to kill Blue Lock? Ego actually applauds Karasu for what he did, but then he goes on to say, it just feels like you're not going for your own goal, and that's not what I taught you. Karasu says, I was doing what's best for the team, and Ego goes on to say, I thought I told you that those who fight for the team are worthless trash. Yo, Ego has no chill. And then he goes on to explain the whole suitability thing isn't what Blue Lock is about. And it's actually more a bottleneck that the higher ups try to use on those who they consider weaker to try and keep them where they are. His explanation actually makes a lot of sense to me and it's pretty concise, so I beg you go read it for yourself. But to summarize, France is a multicultural and multi-ethnic country. And so the pool that they have to pick from is much bigger than the pool that Japan has to pick from. The players that France can garner for each position to suit their playstyle is much bigger than what Japan has to offer on their end. And so if Japan was to go toe to toe with France with the same philosophy, France wins out 9, 10 times out of 10. And I was saying it before. I thought that the reason why Hugo was so hell-bent on Isagi being the number 2 was to bottleneck Blue Lock into a certain role so that they can control them a lot easier. Yes, Isagi's probably more suited to playing the number 2 role, but it's clear to me that Hugo already has contingencies for if Isagi did choose to play the number 2 role. And Hugo being bigger, stronger, faster than Isagi, don't you think that's a bit of a mismatch? Even if Isagi's playing in his suitable role. And that's what Hugo's getting at here. All the Blue Lockers can play in their most suitable role, but physically, they'll be outmatched. And even cognitively, they'll be outmatched. Because lest we forget, Blue Lock currently is a facility full of strikers. Players with striker mentalities above anything else. It would make more sense to play the whole suitability thing had it been a mixture of native midfielders, native defenders, native goalkeepers, native wingers. Had there been a mixture in Blue Lock, then the whole suitability thing you could argue for, although they'll still be outmatched by the bigger, stronger, faster French players. But this is not what Blue Lock is. Blue Lock is a facility for strikers. And that's why Hugo said, we are weak. If we lived suitably, we could never change the world. He goes on to say, this is why I told you to be strikers. This philosophy of going beyond suitability is the heart of Blue Lock. Imagine that you could live 100 times. How many of those times could you become the world's best striker? If I was to make an incredibly optimistic and miraculously high evaluation, I'd say 1 time. An egoist lives for that one chance that never would have happened if they'd known their place. Now, this got to be, because I hated it when Hugo told Isagi, know your place. Yo, that got to be. And I understood immediately that Hugo was trying to suppress Blue Lock in that moment. People thought Hugo's philosophy is right. And let's be honest, in the real world, Hugo is completely right. Ego is wrong. In Blue Lock, however, it's a different story. No pun intended. But Ego is right in what he's saying here. If Blue Lock was to fight the way France wants them to fight, they've already lost. Now what they need to do is rely on that 1% that can get them through it. And remember what Hugo said at the beginning of the match to Isagi. Talent, 66%. Environment, 33%. Luck, 1%. Do you see the correlation there? Shout out to my boy OP. He's the one that brought this to my attention. Up until now, Blue Lock has been relying on the 1% luck that Isagi has been pulling through. And that's why Isagi is the actual embodiment of the Blue Lock philosophy. Because that's what Ego actually wants. See, we've got to take it back to the beginning. Blue Lock was a facility made to cultivate strikers with an ego that can take Japan to the next level when it comes to winning the World Cup. It was stated that Japan was already a decent team. They was able to get through the group stages of the World Cup, but ultimately they fall short. And Ego's evaluation was, that's because they lacked a proper striker. And this is the reason why Blue Lock was created, to cultivate that proper striker, that 1 in a million striker that can pull in that 1% of luck, so that Blue Lock can advance through the ranks. And so with Hugo's philosophy, that completely strips that 1% away from Blue Lock, which means it's not Blue Lock anymore. It's not gonna work. If everyone plays to the suitability philosophy, then only the teams with the biggest, strongest, fastest players would ever win. But we know that that's not the case in football anyways. It's not always the biggest team that wins. It's not always the strongest team that wins. It's not always the fastest team that wins. Sometimes you need some luck here and there. You need some ingenuity. You need some great minds combining. You need that special piece of skill. And so that's what Blue Lock relies on. They rely on that 1% of luck. And so far it's been Isagi the one that's been able to pull it in. Not necessarily all the time, because remember Barrow's goal against the U20 team. You could say that was down to luck. He decided to shadow Rin in that moment and it paid off. That's what Blue Lock is. Everyone devouring each other, strikers going band for band, everyone trying to score goals. That's what makes Blue Lock different. If everyone played the way that they're supposed to, how much easier would it be for Hugo to be able to predict and stop them? Think about it, guys. Hugo's cool, but he's not your friend. Anyways, back to the story. Karasu says, but we can't deny that what we're currently doing isn't working, which is a fact. And so Ego says, alright, if you want something new, first you need to let go of something old. We're ditching the Isagi centered strategy and bringing a new formation. And this got me gassed, guys. I can't lie. But before we get to that new formation, let's check in on the French locker room, where this Zinedine Zidane knockoff, known as Rodin, proceeds to just utterly glaze the whole of France team. He says, you guys are the strongest generation. You're God's once in a century chosen ones. You change soccer forever, blah de blah blah. You're Francis Le Bleu. Let's make history. He's trying to aura farm, but I don't see no aura flaring off him or anything like that. But he's provocative. He gets the crowd going. And so France, with the incredible once in a generation players such as Chapa and Renoir, all get fired up. And that's when we see Loki pulling Charles to the side and saying, hey Charles, give me more line breaking passes this half. If this ends without me scoring, the world will be sad, right? Yo, bro's got an ego for real. Charles goes on to say, oh, feeling frustrated, Loki? Okie dokie, I'll give you some nasty ones. And then we see a mountain taking both the guys under his wings, saying, it's okay, Loki. I doubt this match will end like this. Bro, I did not know Hugo was built like this. I swear, down every single chapter, he gets bigger and bigger. Pause. No homo. Hugo says, it seems it's gonna get messy. Blue Lock has chosen that destiny. As they walk out to 3 new silhouettes on the pitch. Yes, we're not just getting the double jokers, we're also getting the wild card in this half. Ego's played his whole hand. He's laid his whole deck of cards on the table. He's gone all in. And I don't know how many more card references I can make at this point. But yo, seeing Barrow, Shido and Kunigami all on the pitch together, and you add Isagi and Rin on top of that. Oh, that's crazy. And so we see in Ryusei Shido, Marcel's are screaming, Shohei Barrow, time to hunt. Rensuke Kunigami, quit drooling, you beasts. As we see a new formation, a 4-2-1-3 with Gagamaru in goals. Aiku and Aryu playing the centre back, Iori and Rayo playing fullbacks, Kunigami and Karasu playing the defensive midfield, Isagi in the lone attacking mid, and the front three of Barrow, Shido and Rin in the spear. Guys, this is a let's see who can score the most formation. And so I think this game is about to get a hell of a lot more interesting. As we see on the bench, Bachu is saying, we've been dismissed. Nico says, no use in crying about it. As Chigiri cheers on his boyfriend Kunigami from the stands, as per usual. Isagi's grasped it. I'm surprised by how calm he's been in this moment. The guy didn't crash out at all. It looks like he's back to his element. An all-out offensive formation. The strategy centered around me was obliterated. There's someone clearly more talented and a bigger dreamer than me standing right there. This is the worst possible situation. So then why do I feel so excited? Surpass Hugo. That's what my ego's screaming. As it's time to kick off the second half, Hugo activates his special eye. The game is about to go wild. And bro, I'm loving the direction right now. Listen, everyone's gonna get on Isagi's case. Isagi's been relegated to the midfield. Isagi's gone back to Cam. Cam Sagi this, Cam Sagi that, Cam Samidai. I do not care. As long as Isagi is in his element, it doesn't matter where he plays because he's gonna be effective. This is what Isagi thrives on. Moments where he's not the center of attention. Instead, he has to fight and combat other strikers on his team to gain attention. We saw the dynamic between Isagi and Kaiser. Arguably, the best Isagi we've ever seen is when he's vying for control of the attack. Isagi in this position is the most dangerous Isagi you can get because he's gonna be on a devouring streak. And as Baro comes in to devour, he devours back. As Shido comes in to devour, he devours back. As Rin comes in to devour, you know the drill. And with the abundance of talented strikers that he has in front of him, yeah, Hugo better pop that Sharingan, because bro, he's gonna need it for the next 45 minutes. Listen, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this chapter as much as I did. It was a great chapter for me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in the next one. I think we're gonna see goals galore in this match. I'm predicting 3 more goals for Blue Lock, maybe another 3 from France, because I do see France winning the game. I do. But I just don't think it's gonna be that easy. Let me know what you guys think. Put your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure you've liked the video before you leave. Hype it up. Subscribe to the channel. Join us for the locker room streams every Tuesday night. And make sure you're back here for the next chapter review. But until then, please take care and God bless.